So hi guys, this is actually a story time to explain a video that I made, I believe about 2 years ago now, and it was actually a really divisive video when I made it at the time. And I will link it here. I'm thinking of redoing it only because I'm just not very proud of how I worded things there. But I want to explain why I don't always tip people. And before you hit the dislike button because you haven't even finished the video or commented before even finishing the video, please take a seat and listen. I'm going to get all of my little showman stuff out of the way real quick before putting it at the end. Thank you as always to all of my Patreon patrons. If you want to support me on Patreon, see all of my artwork first, see a lot of other updates first. You get first dibs on adoptables, commissions, and other artworks I do, as well as life updates and other things before the public does. You know, all that stuff down there. Please, because the YouTube algorithm is very dumb, hit a like or dislike button when the video's done, and comment and subscribe because YouTube is dumb. And I have to say that now. And merch is in my Redbubble link, which is in my link tree link down below, as well as all my other ones. You can clearly tell I don't like having to do this showmoan stuff, but I kind of have to with how things are. So now let's get into the topic of this video. If you are still listening, because I am new. No, I shouldn't say new to this, but new to the whole thing. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. So, why is it I don't always tip people? So, I live in America, California, more, strictly. And I live where, tipping is customary, but in almost every other country it's not. And there's whole debates on why, the how tipping started and all this stuff, and I'm not talking about that right now. So, where I live, I have done a lot of jobs in my life. I've done a lot of retail jobs. I've done a lot of service jobs. I've done a lot. I've done a lot of the jobs that I'm going to talk about here today, except for one. And I have always tried to give people the benefit of the doubt. I've always hated the time. Let me talk to the managers. I've always had to talk my parents down and other people's parents down, in a very nice and calm and collective manner of, when people are having bad service, when it isn't the person's fault. The problem is there are many, many, many times where it is the person's fault and they're just abusing the system that they were given, and that is the problem here. And so when I know that someone is doing their job and doing a good job, I will tip them if I can afford it. Usually if I'm going out to eat and doing stuff like that, I can afford a tip because I'm already spending food, on going out and treating myself. Same with commissions and artwork. When I have the money and I can do an extra tip, I like tipping. When I'm an artist and I get tipped, I do love getting tips. I know a lot of people do. But it is not mandatory, nor should it be. And the reason for that is because if somebody does a really shitty job and takes a really long time and doesn't update people, and or they abuse their system, they shouldn't get a tip. They just shouldn't. I'm sorry. And here are some stories of why my opinion is that way. So, the first one, the most drastic one, is where I am not a hairstylist. I will never claim to be one. So I've never worked in that industry. But this was many years ago when I had just found out with one of my jobs that I could have colored hair again. And I wanted to have colored hair for a very, very, very long time. And I was very excited to hear that I could, in fact, have colored hair at this job. So I saved up right around, I believe, about $100. And this was money I was going to use to get my hair done because I was going to color my hair, but not my whole head. I wanted specifically the back of my hair colored and just the back of my hair. Not all of my hair, just the back of it. And it wasn't an ombre, it wasn't like this and that. I was quoted for about right around $100. If not, it was within that range. It was a reasonable range. It wasn't that far off. And I was like, okay, fair. I always know, give or take, because I had thick hair at the time and I wasn't doing my undercut like I do now, that I was also going to be charged a little more, which is why I saved a little bit more than I, said I had. So we were getting my hair done, and I noticed that the girl started putting a lot more tinfoil in my hair than I wanted. If you guys have colored your hair, you understand what I'm talking about. And I remember being like, why are you doing my whole head? I just wanted the back of my head. And she explained that, oh, well, with what you wanted to get done, I can't do for some reason. So we're going to do this instead. Hearing that, in my brain, I assumed, okay, it's still going to be the same price, even though this isn't what I wanted. And so, go through the whole cake and poodle. My hair looked great. I'm not going to say it didn't look great. My hair did look amazing, and she did a very fantastic job, and I loved it. Then it came time for the bill. I was also young at the time. I was in my early 20s when this happened. And the girl came over and was like, all right, it's going to be about $300. And I'm like, that's double what you quoted me for. And she's like, are we going to have a problem? And I said, yes, we're going to have a problem. This isn't what I asked for. It's beautiful, but this isn't what I was quoted. This is nowhere close to what I was quoted. So the girl proceeds to lock the door of the store with other people inside and threatens me that she was going to call the police for stealing from the store. I am not who I am now. I did not have the strength or sass to call back or realize that what this woman was doing to me was hella fucking illegal. And I, kind of started, my voice started cracking, I started shaking, I started having a panic attack because this random woman just locked me in a store with other people, threatening to call the cops on me for double the price of what I had gotten. I had to excuse myself. I had to tell this woman in a very embarrassing way that I had to ask my mom for money because I didn't have that much money on my bank card. And she just said, all right, go ahead, go ask the money because you're not leaving the store. And if it's going to be a problem, I'm going to call the police. So I fucking got on the phone. I was in tears in the bathroom of this haircut place. And I called my mom. My mom was able to transfer me the money, and my mom was really worried and was going to call the police on my behalf. And it was this whole thing. And I was like, no, I don't want any more. I just want to pay, and I want to fucking go home. I was so done with that moment. I had actually liked the hair she had done, and now I hated it. And I wanted to shave my head at that point. So came out. I paid the exact amount on the fucking bill, and the girl unlocked the store. And then she looked at me and looked at the bill and was like, oh, you're not going to tip? And she wasn't being sarcastic. And I said, no, of course not. And people were already kind of leaving the store now that once the lady unlocked it. And she's like, well, you really should tip. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to tip. I'm going to leave and I am never going to come back. And she's like, good, I hope you never come back. And that was it. Complained to corporate, which I never do because I was openly threatened. When the lady didn't give me what I wanted with my hair, charged me extra for it, and then wanted a tip. It put such a sour mood on everything. And nothing ever happened of it. I never went back, told all my friends to never go there, yada yada. Another time was when my mother and I were out at a restaurant, and it was very slow. This is important because when servers are working during peak hours and people always see open tables, I'm going to let you in on a little server secret here. That isn't a common knowledge, if you haven't really been a server. Just because you see open tables doesn't mean they can serve you, because by law, a server, supposedly, a lot of places do break this rule, are only allowed X amount of tables per shift. So they do not get overwhelmed and they do not have, issues with mixing up orders, people waiting too long for their food. So yes, even if you see open tables, there probably aren't enough servers to take each table. That's just kind of a fact. So it was a very slow time and the servers were just kind of, lounging around and chilling around. My mom and I went in, we, ordered our food, and we saw our waiter, I would say probably 3 times throughout the night. When it came out, we had to call people down. Our food was cold and undercooked. And we openly saw our servers chatting, not in the back, but in the store, just chatting and laughing and dicking around when we couldn't enjoy our food. And I remember we had a terrible experience. The food was terrible, the service was terrible, and it was a whole ordeal. And my mom wanted to, talk to the manager, wanted to do this and that, but we had eaten the food. And I had told my mom, listen, we ate the food, let's just pay the bill and not pay the tip, and we'll just go home. My mom agreed to come by, and we ended up, paying the bill, and then we left. But our server ran out after us and said, "Oh, no, ladies, you forgot to tip." And my mom said, "No, we didn't forget to tip. We had terrible service. So we paid the bill." And this guy proceeded to then shout at us and curse at us, which was a terrible event. And again, never went back to that place and really put a terrible sour mood in my mouth. One more story, because I have many, because I've had a long life. Hey, so Editor Michie here. I feel like I shouldn't have to put this disclaimer, but when these kind of videos go up, people like to take it and twist things, and I feel like, especially with this next story, they're going to make it seem, even though I said at the very beginning that I do tip people when I can, and when I do, and they do a good job. I've had a crap ton of amazing service in almost every aspect I've done, whether it be, retail service work, food handling work, same for artwork and things like that. But I have to kind of put this here because I have a feeling that I'm going to get those comments of people being like, "Oh, I knew this girl never like tips and never does this and that, and this is spreading bad advice." No, that's not the whole point of this whole thing, and I know I'd go about that in the end too, but I just really felt after, re-listening to this and working through it and editing it that I just needed to put this little editor disclaimer in there just because. So yeah, okay, we're going to get into the last story now. Bye. Was probably one of the worst instances I've ever had in a industry like this. It was my mother's birthday, and my mother never wants to go out for her birthday. She never does. Ever. But she wanted, for this birthday, she wanted to go out with the family. She wanted to go out to a restaurant she wanted to go to. So we went to the restaurant, and it was a big party, so obviously we knew it was going to be a big bill. But there was something weird going on throughout the night. It was hard to tell at certain things. And so it's just a whole event. And what ended up happening was throughout this night, there was alcohol spilled on my member that has a disability. He literally cannot talk. So when my relative that has this disability went to go try to get the attention of someone because he literally cannot talk, he went over and he gently touched the shoulder of the server who spilled the drink, because they spilled the drink and didn't say anything, just kind of walked off. And we all watched this. It was very gentle. The server then proceeded to scream and freak out in the restaurant, and lose their damn mind. Get the manager. The manager came out. The manager started yelling at my relative, who very clearly had this disability and couldn't talk back. And the manager was like, "Well, you can't touch my servers. You can't do this and that." And then my family was trying to be like, he wasn't trying to touch the server, but he literally is mute and he can't fucking talk about it. And the manager was like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry about the misunderstanding, but, I'll have to find another server for your table because you caused my server emotional distress." And we were just like, what the fuck is happening right now? So they gave us another server. They fucked with our food all night. They got all of our orders wrong. They did a terrible job. When it came down to it, when we, tried to get a birthday thing from my mom, they wouldn't do it. And then instead they charged double for it on the bill. And there's a lot of other events that I don't want this video to be too long, but a lot of other events happened this terrible fucking night, to where my mom and my dad, who never just wanted to leave without paying, they wanted to leave without paying this big party because of all the terrible stuff that had gone on. And I had other relatives that were like, "No, you are not doing that. You are going to do that, and you are going to tip them." And I snap back. I'm like, no. They should not get a tip. Not for this crap. And it's like, well, maybe they had a long day. Maybe this and that. Maybe it's they spilled alcohol on my disabled family member. They then made a show of my disabled family member in this restaurant on my mother's birthday. They messed up all of our food. They messed up the bill to where they tried double charging us. And then when we tried to leave, My other family members made such a big stink and such a big show where they started now screaming because my older relatives didn't understand what it was like to work in that industry with me right there when I have worked in that industry. Might not have been for long, but I did it. And I remember just thinking like, oh my God. And then they were screaming about like, you don't understand how important tips are and you need to tip. We live in a society where you have to tip and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you don't. And then my relatives ended up leaving such a big tip that they ended up paying double the bill for this terrible fucking experience. And that always stuck in my head. And it always stayed with me. And it's always one of those things I go back to when I have a terrible experience. And that's why I tell people, no. When you have terrible, out of nowhere, awful service, you do not tip them. Because they do not deserve it. Because it puts a terrible name in that industry for a job that people already like to look down on. Okay? We good? We good. Now, I hope you enjoyed my little explanation / rant. And I hope that I just pointed out a couple of things here. Like I said, there were other stories and instances, but it mostly came from people not wanting to do their jobs, or people purposefully taking out their aggressions on other people, and then expecting to get paid extra for being a terrible person. And I don't support that mentality. I believe if you do an amazing job, and you're good at your job, then yes, you deserve a tip. Everyone deserves a tip. Everyone deserves a nice peck in their day. But not if you're an asshole. And so, as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this rant storytime explanation. I will. See you next time.